What if the life you thought you knew was built on a lie? During a routine home visit, Michelle's world shatters when her mother reveals a shocking betrayal. Her real father isn't who she thinks. Secrets, lies, and family drama explode, and what happens next will change everything Michelle ever believed about her family. So I went back home last weekend thinking it was going to be the usual sit in the living room, catch up with Mom Michelle, maybe have some of her homemade lasagna, and listen to her complain about my uncle Paul's bad investment. I hadn't been home for a few weeks, and I was honestly looking forward to a normal, low-key visit. When I walked in, everything seemed normal at first. The house smelled like garlic bread, the TV was playing some random cooking show in the background, and Mom was wiping down the kitchen counter like she always does when she's stressed. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, giving me a hug that felt a little too tight, like she was holding something in. I didn't think much of it until I noticed my Aunt Linda sitting at the table, sipping tea and looking like she just swallowed a lemon. That was already weird. Linda doesn't just drop by. She and Mom have had a rocky relationship for years, mostly over money and family property stuff. "Didn't know you were coming," I said to her, pulling up a chair. Linda just gave me this tight smile and muttered, "Well, some things need to be talked about." At that point, I figured it was going to be another round of them arguing about who gets what after Grandma eventually passes. But then my brother Daniel walked in, looking pale and weirdly quiet. He barely said hi before sitting down, and the air in the room just got heavy. I tried to lighten the mood. "What's going on? Why does this feel like an intervention?" Mom's face went completely still, and that's when I knew something big was coming. She set down the rag she was holding, sat across from me, and folded her hands like she was bracing herself. "Sweetheart, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you a long time ago," she said, her voice trembling slightly. My heart sank. My first thought was health-related, like, "Oh God, is she sick?" But then Linda rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath, "Finally." I snapped at her. "What do you mean finally? What the hell is going on?" Daniel wouldn't even look at me. He was staring at the floor, fist clenched, like he already knew. Mom took a deep breath. "The truth is your father isn't the man you think he is." I literally felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" She hesitated, glanced at Linda like she was asking for backup, then finally said, "The man you grew up calling Dad, he's not your biological father." For a second, I thought she was joking. Like, what kind of sick, twisted joke is that to throw at your kid during a casual Saturday lunch? But she didn't look like she was joking. Her eyes were red, her hands were shaking. And then Daniel slammed his hand on the table. "I told you this was going to blow up. You should have kept it buried." Everything inside me froze. Betrayal, confusion, anger, like every emotion hit me at once. I just sat there, staring at them like I'd slipped into some parallel universe. My ears were ringing, and all I could manage was, "What the hell do you mean he's not my father?" Mom's lips trembled. She reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled it back. "Michelle," Linda said sharply, "you can't sugarcoat it now. You owe them the full truth." Daniel shot her a glare. "Shut up, Linda. This isn't your story to tell." But Linda wasn't having it. She leaned forward, her voice rising. "You think I'm going to sit here and let you spin your little fairy tale? The truth is your mom had an affair. That's where you came from." The words hit me like a punch in the chest. Affair? My own mother. I felt my face burn. "Is that true?" I demanded, whipping around to face Mom. She didn't answer right away, just started crying. Which, in its own way, was an answer. "I was young, I was stupid, and I thought I was in love," she whispered. "It was before your dad, and I fully settled down. But when I found out I was pregnant, your dad, he chose to raise you as his own. He knew from the start." The room spun. I pushed back my chair so hard it screeched against the tile. "So my entire life has been a lie." Daniel finally looked up at me, his eyes wet. "I found out last year. I didn't want to believe it either, but it's true." I felt betrayed twice over, first by Mom for keeping the secret, and then by Daniel for knowing and not telling me. My chest was tight, like I couldn't breathe. "So who's my father then?" I yelled, slamming my hands on the table. That's when Linda smirked, almost with satisfaction. "You've met him many times." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Mom groaned and covered her face with her hands. "Linda, please." But Linda pressed on, like she'd been waiting years for this moment. "Your real father is Paul." The silence was deafening. My uncle Paul. The same uncle everyone in the family had always treated like a screw-up. The same man Mom constantly criticized. I staggered back, gripping the counter for balance. No, that's not possible." Daniel stood up, putting a hand on my shoulder, but I shrugged him off. I felt dirty. Betrayed. Trapped in some sick family soap opera. "Why no?" I choked out. "Why tell me this no?" Mom's sobs filled the kitchen. "Because Paul is trying to make a claim on part of your grandfather's estate. He wants to prove blood ties. I didn't want you to find out this way, but he forced my hand." And just like that, the betrayal doubled. Not only was my entire life written in one conversation, but now it was all tangled in money, inheritance, and ugly power plays. I couldn't stop shaking. My own identity, my family had been ripped out from under me in a single afternoon. I couldn't even process what Mom had just told me before the tension in the room snapped like a live wire. Daniel and I were both staring at Paul, who had suddenly appeared in the doorway, looking way too calm for the chaos he'd just caused. "Thought I'd drop by," he said casually, like he hadn't just been named my biological father by my own mother. "Heard I'm in the news lately." I felt like I'd been punched again. You knew and let this happen?" I yelled, my voice cracking. Paul shrugged. "I only found out recently myself, but hey, you can't hide the truth forever, can you?" His smirk made my blood boil. Mom put a hand over her face, shaking her head. "Michelle, I tried to protect you from all of us, from him." "Are you?" I shot back. "Protect me by lying to me my whole life?" Linda rolled her eyes dramatically. Thou please, this isn't just on your mother. Everyone's been keeping secrets. You think you're the only one blindsided? Daniel muttered under his breath, looking miserable. This is insane. We can't just ignore it now. Paul's claim is serious. I turned on him. And you knew last year and didn't tell me. How could you let me go through life thinking Dad was my dad? He flinched but didn't argue. I thought you weren't ready. Maybe I was wrong. I whirled back to Paul. And you just casually decide to show up here like you're delivering a package, after tearing my whole world apart. Paul sighed, like I was being dramatic. Look, I don't want to hurt you. I need to be part of your life, legally and biologically. It's not personal, Michelle. Not personal. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. My entire life has been rewritten in 30 seconds, and you call that not personal? Mom was sobbing quietly now, trying to keep some sense of calm in the room. Please everyone just breathe. I felt like screaming. The betrayal, the shock, the disbelief, it all collided inside me. But then I caught myself and realized something. This wasn't just about me. It was about everyone in this room. Secrets, lies, grudges, and money all tangled up in one messy knot. I can't even look at you right now, I whispered to Paul, my voice barely audible. And Mom, I don't even know who you are anymore. Linda snorted. Welcome to the family drama, darling. You're finally seeing the real picture. Daniel finally stood up. We can't just explode in anger forever. We need to figure out a plan legally, emotionally, everything. I felt my anger simmer down slightly, replaced with a cold, heavy weight. I was furious, yes. But now I also had to think. About Paul. About Mom. About the inheritance. About who I really was. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a war waiting to happen, and none of us were innocent. The house felt suffocating. The lasagna Mom had made hours ago sat untouched. I didn't care about food or comfort. All I could focus on was the fact that my life had been rewritten and no one had asked me. And now, the air in the house was practically crackling. Every glance between the four of us felt loaded, like we were all just waiting for the next explosion. I couldn't sit still, pacing back and forth in the kitchen, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Paul leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, looking almost smug. I mean, come on, this isn't exactly a surprise, right? Secrets like this never stay buried forever. I whirled on him. You have no idea what this feels like, do you? My whole life, my childhood memories, everything, just shattered because of you. Mom buried her face in her hands, crying quietly, and I felt a twinge of guilt, but not enough to stop my anger. Michelle, you knew this could happen someday. I snapped. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me grow up thinking he was my dad? She shook her head violently. I was trying to protect you. Your father, the man you called Dad, loved you as his own. I didn't want to ruin that. I thought I was doing the right thing. I laughed bitterly, pacing faster. Doing the right thing? By lying to me for 50 years, protecting me. You betrayed me. You're supposed to be my mother, Michelle. Then his voice cut in, sharp and forgiving. Oh, spare me the dramatics. Everyone's made mistakes. You think you're the only one suffering here? She pointed at Paul. You're just as guilty, showing up here like some hero. You're tearing this family apart. And you don't even care. Paul straightened, his smugness fading into irritation. I do care, Linda, but I can't sit by while legal rights are ignored. I have a claim this is about facts, not feelings. Daniel finally stepped between us, hands raised like he was trying to play referee. Enough, we're not getting anywhere by yelling. We need to talk this out calmly. We have to figure out how to handle the estate, the legal staff, and this family mess, but we can't fix it by screaming at each other. I felt my chest tighten. Daniel's attempt at reason only made me angry because it reminded me how utterly out of control everything was. Calmly. Our lives have been turned upside down. We've been living lies our whole lives, and you want me to sit here and have a calm discussion? No, I can't do that, not now. Mon tried to speak, her voice trembling, almost pleading. Please, I know I failed you. I know I hurt you, but I didn't want to ruin your life. I swear I didn't. I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. You already did. You ruined it. You all did. The room fell silent for a moment, the kind of silence that feels like it's holding a storm. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic outside, and my own heartbeat pounding like a war drum. And then Paul spoke again, softer this time. I didn't ask for this, none of us did, but we can't ignore the truth that's here, and whether you like it or not, we have to deal with it. I clenched my fists, staring at him, Mom, and Daniel. Part of me wanted to scream, to run, to throw things. But another part of me realized this wasn't over. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was survival, identity, family, and legacy all wrapped into one explosive mess. I sat down slowly, feeling drained. The battle lines had been drawn, and there was no going back. This home visit had become the day my entire world collapsed and nothing would ever be the same. The tension in the house was suffocating. I sank into the kitchen chair, my hands gripping the edge like a lifeline. Mom sat across from me, sobbing quietly, while Paul and Linda stood on opposite sides, both radiating some version of anger and frustration. Daniel was still trying to mediate, but it was clear this was beyond mediation. Then Paul spoke, his voice calm but piercing. Michelle, I need to tell you everything, not just that I'm your biological father. There are other things you don't know, things that will change how you see this family forever. My stomach sank. What things? He hesitated for a moment, then said, Your mother wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Your uncle, your aunt, there are financial maneuvers, hidden documents, even some letters your grandfather wrote that they were meant to keep certain truths hidden from you. I only found out when I started digging into my claim. Linda rolled her eyes, scoffing. Oh, now he's digging into our family history. Give me a break. Daniel groaned, rubbing his temples. Everyone just shut up for a second. If we're going to survive this conversation, we need to hear him out. Paul nodded. Fine, the truth is your grandfather before he died, made provisions in his will for anyone who could prove our blood relation. He didn't want to favour anyone unfairly. That's why your mother hid the affair. She wanted you to be raised safely, away from greed and conflict. But now, with me claiming my rights, the documents had surfaced, and everything is out in the open. I felt like my head was spinning. So all those years, everything about inheritance, money, family lies. Mom shook her head violently, tears streaming. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was doing the right thing by not telling you. I couldn't take it anymore. Protecting me? You lied to me my entire life. You made me live in a world of lies. How's that protection? Linda stepped forward, voice dripping with venom. Stop playing the victim. You think you're the only one who suffered. Secrets are what keep families together sometimes. You can't handle the truth because it hurts your precious world. Paul interjected, his voice harder now. Enough, Linda. This isn't about your bitterness. This is about the facts, and the fact is, Michelle has kept this from you, and now we have to deal with the fallout. Daniel looked at me, his eyes full of guilt and exhaustion. I tried to protect you too, I really did, but the truth is out, and we need to figure out how to move forward, even if it hurts, even if it feels impossible. I felt tears sting my eyes, my chest tight with betrayal and confusion. Every word felt like another layer of a wound that wouldn't heal. I looked at Mom. I don't even know who you are anymore. I trusted you, and you lied. You all lied. Mom reached for me, desperation in her eyes. I'm sorry, I never wanted this to hurt you. I wanted to keep you safe from the ugliness of this family, but maybe I was wrong. The room was silent again, each of us breathing heavily, the weight of decades of secrets finally pressing down. I realized, in that moment, that nothing would ever feel safe again. Not this house, not this family, not even the memories I thought I could trust. And yet, despite the betrayal, despite the anger, I knew one thing. The truth was out now, and we had no choice but to face it together or risk losing each other forever. The next morning, the house felt different, heavy, almost suffocating, but quieter than before. Nobody had slept much. Mom had been up early, cleaning as if scrubbing the countertops could somehow erase the past. Daniel kept pacing back and forth, phone in hand, trying to find a lawyer or some way to manage the inheritance claims. Paul sat silently on the couch, looking distant but calculating, while Linda wandered from room to room, muttering under her breath about how the family always collapses from greed. I stayed in my room, staring out the window, trying to process everything. Part of me wanted to run, to leave this house and never come back. Another part was furious at myself for letting this happen, to let decades of secrets suddenly upend my world. Finally, Daniel knocked gently on my door. Hey, we need to talk, all of us, together. We can't keep avoiding it. If we don't face this now, it's just going to get worse. I nodded reluctantly and followed into the living room, where Mom, Paul, and Linda were waiting. The tension was almost unbearable, but at least everyone was physically present this time, forced to confront reality. Mom spoke first, her voice small but steady. I've been thinking all night. I know I hurt you, Michelle. I know I betrayed your trust. I can't undo the past, but I can try to make this right. I want us to face this as a family, not let anger destroy us. Paul's gaze was steady. I agree. I'm not here to take anyone down. I'm here to claim my legal rights. Yes, but also I want a relationship with you, Michelle, if that's possible. I stared at him, anger and confusion mixing. You want a relationship after lying to me all my life, after showing up here and turning everything upside down? Paul flinched, but didn't back down. Yes, because the truth matters, even if it's messy, and I want to be honest from now on. Linda scoffed. Honestly, I don't know if I can handle this anymore. Secrets, lies, money, it's too much. Daniel leaned forward. Linda, we can't just quit. This is our family. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it hurts. But we have to figure out boundaries, responsibilities, and how to rebuild trust. I felt a lump in my throat. Rebuilding trust? With everyone in this room? After everything? But as I looked at Mom, Paul, Daniel, even Linda, I realized that despite the betrayal, despite the shock, this was all we had. Family. Messy, painful, infuriating, but family nonetheless. Mom reached for my hand again. We can't change the past, Michelle, but we can choose how we handle the future. I want to be honest with you. I want us to heal slowly, if we have to, but together. I exhaled slowly, feeling a strange mix of relief and fear. I don't know if I can forgive everything yet, but I want to try. I can't promise this will be easy. Paul nodded. That's fair. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance. For the first time since the revelation, a small thread of hope wove through the chaos. Maybe, just maybe, we could navigate this mess. But it wouldn't be quick, it wouldn't be simple, and it certainly wouldn't be painless. And yet the storm had passed, at least for now. By the afternoon, the house had a slightly calmer energy. Mom had made tea for everyone, a shaky attempt at normalcy, and Diana was on a video call with a family lawyer, trying to map out the inheritance situation. Even Linda, who had been the most vocal critic, had retreated to a corner with a notebook, scribbling ideas, muttering complaints, but at least participating. I stayed in the living room, sipping tea, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. Paul had been quiet for hours, scrolling through old family photos that Mom had reluctantly brought out. He paused on one of me as a toddler, laughing in the backyard, unaware of the secrets looming over our lives. My chest tightened. That moment of innocence, it felt stolen now. Mom sat down beside me, brushing a strand of hair from my face. I know it's a lot, Michelle. I can't take back the betrayal, but I want you to know I did love you every day, even when I kept the truth from you. I wanted to protect you from the fallout of things I didn't fully understand myself. I looked at her, trying to absorb her words. I know you love me, Mom, but love doesn't erase deception. It doesn't make years of lies okay. She nodded, tears welling up. I know. I hope we can start building trust again, slowly, one step at a time. Paul, who had been silently watching, spoke up. Michelle, I don't expect you to accept me as your father overnight, but I want to be honest from here on. I want to be part of your life, in whatever way you're willing to allow. I studied him, seeing a mix of sincerity and guilt etched on his face. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but for the first time, I saw a glimmer of something else. Possibility. Not forgiveness yet, not even full acceptance, but the faintest chance of a relationship. Daniel exhaled, leaning back in his chair. We still have a lot to figure out legally, emotionally, everything, but we're talking. That's a start. That's progress. Linda finally chimed in, her voice softer than before. I guess I have to admit, maybe this chaos is forcing us to deal with things we've ignored for decades. It's messy, but maybe it's necessary. I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. The betrayal hadn't disappeared. The shock was still raw. But for the first time since the revelation, there was a plan not just for the inheritance, but for how we'd exist as a family moving forward. Mom reached across the table, taking all of our hands. We can't change the past, but we can shape the future, and I want us to try, together. I squeezed her hand, then glanced at Paul, Daniel, and even Linda. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't be easy. But there was a fragile thread holding us together now, and I decided, for my own sanity, and maybe even for my heart, to follow it. The house was still heavy with tension, but for the first time since that fateful home visit, there was a sense of cautious hope. We had faced the shocking betrayal, survived it, and awkwardly, painfully were beginning to find our footing again. And I realized that family, messy and flawed as it was still worth fighting for.